The Big Issue. Breaking down the issues that matter.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Leadership Podcast. We're on to the big issue for the day. And of course, as usual, I am your regular host, George Jagba is my name. And with me here in the studio is our in-house analyst, a legislative analyst for that matter, B. Adedapo. Good to be here. The big issue of the day is the Constitution Amendment. How National Assembly members voted. Well, members of the National Assembly yesterday voted on the report of its Joint Committee on the review of the 1999 Constitution Fifth Alteration Bill 2022, consisting of 68 bills. And of course, the Senate passed a total of 49 bills out of the 68 considered during voting on the Constitution bill. And of course, the implications here are far-reaching on the powers of the president, as well as setting approach to governance in the country. Maybe we were there yesterday, and of course, we were able to see how the National Assembly members, Senate, and honorable members voted. But the pattern of voting this time around changed. It became a voice vote, unlike before, where it was a vote where you actually know who voted. It's like most of the items to be voted for are too controversial that at the end of the day, they resulted to voice voting in order to conceal the identity in terms of who voted for.
We'll probably be talking about what happened at the Senate.
Yes, at the Senate.
Because I couldn't monitor both at the same time. I was at the House of Representatives for a larger part of the period, voting period, before I went for other assignments at the period. What happened at the House of Representatives? This information is quite different. They deployed the use of electronic gadgets to cast their votes. And even at the point, the Speaker of the House of Representatives threatened that if lawmakers, House of Representatives should be mindful of how they vote, because he was going to, according to him, that he would make a printout of the voting pattern, and Nigerians and constituents will know who voted for what. We are still waiting for that printout, but I tell you that even with the Freedom of Information Act, we can write, you and I can write to the National Assembly and say, I want to know how my lawmaker voted on this issue, that issue. So it is a fresh information for me that at the Senate it was a voice vote. The only time the Speaker allowed a voice vote was the last bill. And that last bill, if my memory will serve me right, has to do with affirmative action for women in appointments, appointment to the position of ministers and position of commissioners. Because about 2 or 3 bills that has to do with women in politics had been declined. Lawmakers had voted against those. So the last one, I wouldn't know what Betabi Abila's interest is or was, but he did everything to make lawmakers see why they should vote in favor of that particular bill. And after all he did, lawmakers still voted against. So he called for a revote and demanded a voice vote. So it was without voice vote. Of course, you cannot, the voice vote will just tell you a louder echo. That is what you only know about the voice vote. You wouldn't know the number of people who voted. So procedurally, I think that is actually wrong, because during the constitutional review, voting on constitutional review, you actually count numbers. There are bills that 2/3 majority would decide on. There are bills that 4/5 majority would decide on.
The ones that the simple majority
So
can just go.
in a constitutional amendment, there's no simple majority. So if there is no simple majority, then you cannot call for a voice vote. But I don't know, procedurally, I consider what Guadalupe Amila did as, I don't know, a little bit off the procedure, but it was, everybody saw it. I mean, it was on the live broadcast, so I don't know why he did that.
Well, thank you very much, MB. But let's now begin to look at the items voted for, both the ones for and against. Some of them, and one of the interesting approvals by the National Assembly in the Constitution Amendment was the power of the National Assembly and state houses of assembly to summon the president and governors. Before now, state governors and president had treated such summons with disdain. What is the significance of this in our governance and democratic process? Now that it had, it will now become a constitutional provision that if any governor or if the president fails to honor the summon by the National Assembly or State Assembly, such president or governor risks jail.
Risk, okay.
Yeah.
Well, you remember that in the 8th Assembly, sometime in 2019, the House of Representatives summoned the president. Just last year, or was it December 2020? December 2020, the House of Representatives again summoned the president to come and brief the parliament on the security situation, particularly as regards wanton killings in the northern part of the country. That was when about 43 or 45 farmers were killed, beheaded somewhere in Borno State, and the president also did not come. Attorney General of the Federation issued a statement saying that the president's coming before the parliament is discretionary, and there is no law. So, in other words, the Attorney General argued that the provision of Section 82 of the Constitution, if I'm correct, does not include the president because he has immunity. And so, the same goes for the states. There have been back and forth between lawyers and among lawyers, senior advocates, and all. But my position is that the lawmakers have, let me choose my words correctly, they have decided to abrogate their responsibility in that area. Because obviously, if you have the power of the purse, if you have the power to approve, if you have the power, if the president, the executive arm of government, cannot do certain things without the approval of the legislature, and the lawmakers are saying, come and brief us on these issues, and the person has refused to come, there are many ways. There are a lot of powers in the custody of the lawmakers. So if they have decided, and remember, the lawmakers were the same people making excuses for the president. Why he would not come. I remember the spokesperson of the House said we are playing, it is a party politics. The party is more superior to the president. If the party says the president should not come, and all manner of
That is why most Nigerians were very surprised about the decision taken by the National Assembly.
If they have now, after making us to believe that the president does not have to come, they have gotten what they wanted and all that, they are now coming back now to tell us that we actually don't have the power. Now we need the power.
Now have that.
What that suggests to me is that yes, we know that we have set a very long precedent. But before Nigerians will start, our future president will start referring us to the precedent, the bad precedent we have set, let us find a way to correct it. Because if this law eventually scales through in the state houses of assembly, then nobody will be able to make reference to what happened in the 9th assembly when Badabia Miller's house or Lawal Senate summoned the president and he didn't come. Nobody will be able to. This law would have salvaged that situation. So for me, I think they are only trying to be smart so that, of course, they have not been able to live up to the expectation of Nigerians in that aspect. In the aspect of holding the president and the executive arm of government, especially at the federal level, holding them into account. So if they have not been able to do that, now they want to find ways to checkmate like in political development or in democratic development, it is actually not out of place. But I would understand if they have found legislative loopholes that this executive have explored. But in this situation, it doesn't look to me like the executive arm of government has explored any legislative loophole. What it suggests to me is that the lawmakers have not been able to assert the authority in their possession. So now they are trying to make
it
a provision
for
that
it.
will erase their own mistakes.
Thank you very much, And then when it comes to something that pertains to them, they voted against it. And that is life pension for principal officers of the National Assembly. To me and to most Nigerians, I think from the reactions we have received from Nigerians so far, it's like the lawmakers read the mood of the nation that is still angry over the humongous pensions that former governors enjoy at the expense of the taxpayers. And that is why perhaps they would have chosen to do the right thing. Why do you think the lawmakers rejected life pension?
Well, let me admit that it's one of the clauses in that amendment that actually surprised me. And I've always said that we cannot say everybody in politics or everybody in the National Assembly is actually bad. I wouldn't know what informed that voting pattern, but of course, you know that on certain issues, before they come to the gallery to cast their ballots, they would have discussed among themselves. And it is also very possible that they have read the mood of the nation. Already, people have been screaming about their allowances, what they get, constitutional intervention project, constituency allowances, and all manner of allowances that, if you ask me whether it exists or not, most of them I don't know. But what I know is that one way or the other, these people find money in their coffers. So it is very possible that they have read the mood of the nation and felt, no, let's not bite more than we can chew. Some of the bills they rejected yesterday, as we speak to you, some women groups are at the gate of the National Assembly
Protesting.
So you cannot imagine what could happen if they decided to, include life pension and
For
all that
principal officers.
for principal officers. But if you ask me personally, I don't think it is out of place. So you see, it is different. It is a different thing to have life pension for them. But how do you determine what the rate of this pension?
Okay.
This is another thing. Governors, former governors of states, former presidents, and all that, they also got to the office through some political process. We're not talking about life pension for every member of the National Assembly. We're talking about the presiding officers. That is so. I don't think it is out of place.
But
if that
sorry to cut you short. Don't you think by the time you include principal officers of the National Assembly or perhaps state assemblies, and then include them to the governors, and then to the former president?
The first question is
very soon. Very soon the money that will be allocated for the payment of this pension will even be bigger than the budget, because every 4 years we have turnout of all this.
I have a problem when people come to the legislators or the lawmakers and tag them as the most corrupt individuals. For God's sake, the people in the executive enjoy what I don't think they deserve to enjoy. Far more than that. In most cases, these persons in the executive arm of government they are appointed. And I've also, in some of my opinions, I've remarked that we Nigerians are the corrupt ones, and we are the ones pushing these lawmakers to be corrupt, because the expectation of constituents from these people, from these lawmakers, are just out of reality. So if you want to retain your seat, You have to do what your constituent wants, and what the constituent wants is not the job of a lawmaker, but the job of a political entrepreneur who has gotten there and has to service the constituent who has helped him to get to power. So if we are playing that kind of politics, and you see director generals of agencies, you see ministers, you see special advisors of governors and presidents enjoy certain largesse, then when it comes to the turn of lawmakers, you say lawmakers should not because they are our representatives. So the very thing I see about that bill, what they ought to have done is to even question the pension that goes to former president. And I don't know the rate, but if it is outrageous, if it is excessively outrageous, they should we should have a bill that will streamline it to say that okay, a governor or a president should earn maybe pension that is equivalent to that of a level 16 officer or a permanent, something just like that. So not just that a governor will come and say, oh, this is how much I want to earn by the time I leave office. So therefore, my predecessor should start earning it before it gets to my turn.
Well, thank you. Before we can, let's just quickly take a short break. And of course, hoping that by the time we come back, our viewers will begin to contribute constructively to the conversation on the big issue. Don't go offline. We'll be back in a moment.
For sponsorship and advert placements, please contact 080-3688-6158. Last Word Leadership Podcast Studio. You have the last word.
The Big Issue. Breaking down the issues that matter.
You're welcome back. We are still on the big issue in Leadership Podcast. And of course, the big issue of the day, as you already know, is the Constitutional Amendment and how members of the National Assembly voted. Well, MB, before going on break, you raised something. You spoke about women at the National Assembly protesting. And of course, I could understand. It was about the one of the surprising items that was rejected, which was the turning down of special seats for women in State Assembly and the National Assembly. And what is quite surprising about that is that they rejected it, not even when even the persuasive effort of the First Lady, Aisha Buhari, and wife of Vice President Osibanjo, that is Dolapo, who respectively stormed the National Assembly to lobby them. Despite that, they were not ready to budge. Why is it so? Why does the National Assembly lack gender sensitivity? I think that is the anger. That is why those women in the National Assembly, because from that singular act, the women in Nigeria are angry that the lawmakers are not gender sensitive.
Well, it is not for me to defend them or to actually admit that they lack gender.
Okay, I'm sorry. When it comes to this, you don't know whether to defend them or not.
No, it is not in my place.
I was suspecting that you were.
It is not in my place to defend them. However,
you could be, sorry to cut you. You could be in a dilemma over speaking on this because you don't know what your wife will be watching you there and wants to hear what you say.
You see, my wife knows my position on women in leadership. So I'm rooting for my wife to become the commissioner in one state. So I wouldn't be against such a thing. However, when things happen like this, we have to look at the statistics, the demographic statistics that comprises the membership in the
The
National
National
Assembly.
Assembly.
Now you look at cultural issues that are associated to these things. I mean, there were efforts, several efforts by lawmakers who believe that some of the bills that will bring women, that will encourage women, more women, into participation in politics. But those who just decided to look the other way voted the way they wanted to. And without being stereotypical, you know that we don't have a culture of women participation in politics from northern part of Nigeria. Without being stereotypical, that is a culture that is lost in Africa. We have some of them, and I believe that in the next few years, a few more of them, or more, many more, will be encouraged to participate in politics. But as it stands today, that culture is just evolving. So, unfortunately, maybe by the time we call for a printout of the voting pattern, we will know who voted for what. However, as regards the bill, without even talking about which part of the country voted, I think the bill itself has a defect. Personally speaking, Nigerians have complained about the bicameral legislation, the bicameral structure of our legislature. Nigerians have complained that the National Assembly is wasteful. The structure of the National Assembly is wasteful. Now we're talking about 30 something, 36, 7 plus 60 something. That's 111 legislative seats. Additional legislative.
Is it additional?
Additional legislative seats. So we're not talking about cultural influences or religious beliefs. Which, if you look at it strictly from the point of view of prudence, I don't think if I were to be a lawmaker, I wouldn't vote for someone.
I think that was even the real defect.
Yeah,
Because at the end of the day, if you call for special seat, you shouldn't be seeking addition. Rather, you should be saying that of the seats that are there,
Thank you.
make provision.
If that bill was saying that out of the 3 Senate seats in every state, at least one must be occupied by a woman. But there will be an issue, because why the sponsors of the bill wouldn't come through that angle is because there is no senatorial district that will now sit back and say, this time around we want a woman to run. Except they have decided to say, okay, on a rotational basis, if the first Senate, maybe the South senatorial district or Plateau South district produces a woman in this assembly, then the next assembly, Plateau North should produce a woman. But I don't know how tidy that arrangement is going to be. So, but for me, I think seeking additional legislation, because when you look at it, it's going to alter a whole lot of things. I'm not sure the offices they have there can accommodate more than the number of lawmakers constitutionally provided for. So if you bring another 111, are we going to start constructing another office complexes for them?
Of course, that would have been it should cost effective.
Not just that, we will not start talking about the
allocation to them.
But another issue is if you don't bring women, saying that there's going to be special seats for women, those women are not going to come to the National Assembly to discuss purely gender issues. I think for me, I'm looking at it from a different perspective.
That the in that aspect of gender sensitivity, the electorate rather should have decided.
I agree totally that we should have more women participating in politics. Even my wife, I will encourage her. Even my sisters, I will encourage them. Any woman around me, I will encourage her to participate in politics. However, I don't think we should play the second fiddle. I do not see it as let's leave it for them because she is a woman. There are some women in the National Assembly.
They should leave it for them because they merit it.
They deserve it.
They deserve it.
Because they deserve it. So excuse me, there are ministers, female ministers in this cabinet. Nobody gave them those jobs because they are women. They got the job because the president felt they deserve and they would deliver. That is the kind of narrative we should be pushing. We should encourage our women to talk, to show capacity, to be more vocal. They should not just say, "Oh, once my husband is there, there's no problem."
There's no problem.
No,
My own role is in the kitchen.
it is when they now come that we can have more. Because I agree, it is world over. There is feminism theory. Women want to advance the cause of the women folks. I agree, but I don't think that should be done by women playing the second fiddle. By saying so what it means is that once you leave those legislative seats for women, the women will not come and contest. Because once you come and you want to contest, no, there are seats specifically marked for you women. So you are already telling them that men are superior to women, and we have left what should be for the women for the women. Whereas there should be competition. Women should compete with men, and they should show capacity.
Thank you very much, B. And then let's look at this other one. The lawmakers also voted that states are free to collect VAT. This was a very big win for Lagos and Rivers State, who had already gone to court to challenge this. Of course, the matter had been ongoing. And if that becomes a law, automatically states will be collecting their own VAT. What is the significance of this? What do you think?
The significance.
And then why do you think the lawmaker may have decided?
But we know.
Okay.
We know that governors wield enormous powers in the various states. And we know that when lawmakers vote against bills that will favor the interest of
the states,
of state governors, you know what the
they might not return.
So I don't think we should be discussing that.
Of course.
It's one of the bills I was sure before they voted that was going to scale through. The president does not have the kind of power the governors have over members of the National Assembly.
But the truth of the matter is that, you see, just like the Electoral Act Amendment Bill that went back to the National Assembly 5 consecutive times because the president rejected it. If this idea of VAT is part of that constitutional amendment, this alone and lead to the return of this bill to the National Assembly.
No, this is a constitutional amendment.
But because
this is a constitutional amendment bill. The moment it goes to the state houses of assembly, and I think 24 states out of the 36 vote in support of the bill, even if the president does not sign, it becomes a law after a period of time. So I don't. It's not the president does not still.
Well, that is the most we can take for the big issue of the day, and of course, I hope you had a wonderful time keeping tab with us. Thank you for actually stay on with us on the big issue, and of course, I'll thank our in-house analyst B for addressing the big issue the way it's supposed to. Join us same time tomorrow for another edition of this program. Do have a wonderful day.
Thank you for watching. For sponsorship and advert placements, please contact 080-3688-6158. Last Word Leadership Podcast Studio. You have the last word.